Welcome to another edition of Our City. A few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week. On December 13th, Wednesday at 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm going to join the First Ward Councilman, the Council President, Carlos Torres, residents for the annual First Ward tree lighting ceremony. It will be held at the Elizabeth Port Community Center, located at 250 2nd Street. This event will feature holiday music, some gifts, some toys, some giveaways, and of course, a visit from Santa Claus. And on Thursday, December 14th at 6 o'clock, the Fifth Ward Councilman, William Gallman, and the residents will have a tree lighting ceremony located at the intersection of Catherine Street and William Street. This event will feature light refreshments, holiday music, and of course, a visit from Santa Claus. If you need more information concerning these events or any other events, please call our Public Information Office at 908-820-4124. Please stay with us after these messages. We're going to talk about tourism with Edmo and a new initiative here in the city of Elizabeth.
Offering everything you could want from college, including a life. Kane University.
Welcome back to Our City, where I'm pleased to be joined by Mr. Jake Buganski, who's the State Director of New Jersey Tourism. Jake, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us here.
And thanks for coming all the way up from Trenton. We don't get many visitors from Trenton here. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here. And Miss Jennifer Costa, who's the Director of the Elizabeth Destination Marketing Organization, Edmo. Jennifer, you've been on the show before. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Mr. Thomas Hinderhofer, who is the Director of the Northeast Port Operations, Cape Liberty Cruise Port.
Yes, with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, yes.
With Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines.
That's correct.
Oh, I don't want to forget that. So why don't we start with you, Jake, because Jennifer's been on the show. Tell us a little about yourself. How did you get into tourism? Are you a Jersey guy? Born and bred? What's the deal with you, Jake?
I am a Jersey guy. I grew up in southern New Jersey, and I actually ran a tourism bureau in the southern part of the state for about 6 years. I was there for a little over 10. Had one brief year up in Corning, New York, before coming back to the role that I'm in now at the state level almost a year ago, last December. So I've been doing tourism for a long time, and almost all of it's been in New Jersey.
Wow. Erastus Corning is what Corning, New York is named after. He was one of the longest serving mayors in the entire country, like 50 years or something.
I wasn't up there long enough to learn that, so
No,
that's news to me.
You want to do some research, look up Erastus Corning.
Yeah.
So did you go to school for tourism or to study this? Or?
No, actually, I went to school for public relations at Rowan University, and I did an internship with the tourism bureau that I worked for in southern New Jersey. And after I graduated, they were looking for a communications specialist at the time, and so I came back for that role and then just stuck around and worked my way up, and now I'm here.
Tourism. Good.
Yeah.
And Tom, tell us, are you a Jersey guy?
No, I'm not. I married in.
You married into Jersey?
Yeah, I did. Originally from Long Island, New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, and tell us about your role there?
Well, actually, I went to school here locally in the area, SUNY Maritime College, and graduated from that college with a Bachelor's of Science in Marine Transportation, which is the business side of the maritime industry, and then also got my license to sail on commercial vessels of unlimited size. So instead of going on a container ship or a tanker, the normal path of a merchant mariner, I kind of went that less traveled path of the passenger vessel, and ended up sailing with Celebrity Cruise Lines, which is a brand of the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line Corporation.
You actually pilot these vessels?
I used to. I wouldn't call it piloting in a sense, but I would be a navigational officer on board the vessel to take it from point A to point B along the itinerary. And
so if the ship got lost, it would be your fault type of thing?
It would be part of my responsibility, yes. Yes. But we try not to do that.
No, of course.
That would be bad for business. That's correct.
It's not good for business. So it must be fascinating to not only study, but then implement that in sailing.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it's been a nice career for me. At this point, I'm about a little over 10 years with the company, and I've sailed for 8 years. I was sailing 8 years out at sea, not continuous, of course, but over that period, I was able to raise in the ranks and get my master's license, my captain's license with the company, and then I had an opportunity to go ashore as a port captain, so managing different vessels around the world, and lastly, where I am now is with port operations, managing not only the cruise terminal at Cape Liberty Cruise Port in Bayonne, New Jersey, but also managing the port operations for the whole Northeast corridor from anywhere from Baltimore all the way up to Montreal.
And Jennifer, you've been on the show just a couple of weeks ago,
Correct.
and now you're back. You're like a bad penny, Jennifer. We can't get rid of you.
No, I'm the good penny.
You're the good penny.
I'm the good penny, bringing good things to our city. So, but thank you so much for having us back.
So before I get to Tom, the League of Municipalities convention was 3 weeks ago, from when we air this show. And Jake, you were there and you were speaking. I was there listening. And between you and Jennifer, you made a great announcement that we're going to segue into Tom on. So tell us about the League of Municipalities. What made you go? Your remarks, not only in our area, but around the state.
Yeah. So we really wanted to take an opportunity to just talk to everybody throughout the state about the state of New Jersey tourism. Obviously, we've had the organic draw of our 130 miles of beaches for as long as people have been traveling. But the way that the tourism industry has evolved and as competitive as it's gotten, we really need to take the opportunity to develop some more diverse and new products throughout the state to attract people to come here for reasons other than just the shore. So,
which was the focus point of your remarks, which is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but it was, go ahead on that point, because it was interesting.
Yeah, and one of the great things that we were thrilled to be able to announce that day was opportunities like what we're going to talk about here that Elizabeth has developed with the excursions for Royal Caribbean to bring folks from the cruise ships into New Jersey to experience some of what we have to offer here, to get them to see some of the history and some of the other opportunities that we have to offer to visitors other than just those typical beach destinations, which they may have been familiar with. So yeah, it was a good timing that these excursions came online just as we were heading to League of Municipalities, so that we were able to use this as a really great example of how we can diversify our tourism economy and the types of things that we really need to do more of in the state to continue to get people to visit.
So Jennifer, I always kid you and Gordon that, 25 years ago, I never thought we'd have tourists coming to Elizabeth, and I guess I owe you a lunch or a dinner or something, because
Put it on the tab. No.
Put it on the tab, right? I gotta pay it forward, right, Jennifer? But the work that you're doing with the hospital, with the hotel tax that we put in place, is phenomenal, and I think Jake recognized it from a state standpoint. How did you hook up with a guy like Tom and Royal Caribbean Cruise, and how did you get this off the ground before I go to Tom?
So it originally all started with our marketing coordinator, Lauren. I kind of kept going to Lauren and I said, Lauren, you have to contact Cape Liberty. We have to have a banner, or how do we get an advertisement about Elizabeth at Cape Liberty? And so she worked her magic and was able to organize a meeting. And upon brief conversation with Captain Hinderhofer directly and learning about the vision that they have for Cape Liberty Cruise Port for New Jersey, as well as a model for the Northeast in terms of cruise line opportunities, we sought there to be an opportunity where Elizabeth is a great fit to help build their product. We have the history and the great shopping, some great restaurants, everything that's needed for the tourists, whether it's before or after they're leaving their cruise. So we kind of extend their package. Yeah.
So Captain, tell me about that from your point of view. You're responsible for something for these people to do, I guess, once in a while when they have a lot of downtime.
Right, yeah, so not myself directly, or the cruise port, I should say, directly, but we are the conduit that can reach back to the brand, and whichever brand is coming to our port that day. What's unique about Cape Liberty Cruise Port is that it's owned and operated by Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. So we kind of have a little bit of a better say on what goes on at the port, at the terminal. We can introduce certain aspects like this, even if it's just on a trial period, just to kind of test the waters and see what could be really affordable for our guests, not just based on price point, but also affordable in time. Because even though we do have about 30 to 40% of our guests are actually drive up, it's a drive up market, they're coming within 90 to 100 miles out from Cape Liberty Cruise Port, a majority of them are flying in from East Coast or from the Southeast Coast, or coming from the West Coast, wanting to go to the different places that we do go to here that are unique to this particular region. And I think offering them this pre and post cruise opportunity to go and see something different other than New York City or other than just going to wait in the airport for their flight to take off. It gives a great opportunity for them to continue their vacation or get their vacation started early.
So how does that work, Tom, as far as, is that an extra cost? How does that work from the cruise lines and with Jennifer? How, they just sign up for it as part of their package, or they like I've never been on a cruise.
Right.
That's silly me. I've flown everywhere I've gone, so someday I'll get on a cruise. So tell me how that works for a novice that like me, that you sign up for it or something?
Right. So with different cruise lines, they have different packages. They have pre and post packages that you can actually book in a transfer opportunity. And what happens is that when you book your cruise, you could pre-purchase this transfer opportunity either from the airport or from the hotel to the pier, and then you could actually purchase it back from the pier to the hotel or to the airport. So what Edmo has done is that they've created kind of an excursion in that piece, and all along the cruise, all along your cruise vacation, you can purchase excursions in the different ports that you go to. For example, down in Bermuda, you can do a jet ski tour, or you can do some type of food tasting, things like that, where you go out actually on tour or just to the beach. So this is part of that. It's almost an infusion of that transfer and the excursion piece all together. So that is something that the guests can actually purchase. They can book it before they sail, or they can purchase it while they're on board the ship.
Okay. So Jake, do we have tours ships in other parts of the state?
No,
in the Cape or in the Delaware?
No, this is
Anywhere there?
This is the only cruise terminal that we have in the state, and this is the first time that we've actually had excursions from a cruise line in the state. So that's why it's such a exciting moment in tourism for us here. And I really think it's a great opportunity, in particular, for folks to experience the history of the area and to introduce them to all of the rich history that New Jersey has. Earlier this year, there was a Museum of the American Revolution that opened in Yorktown, Virginia, and so they had a day for each of the original 13 colonies to celebrate and talk about the history of those states. And when I was there, I was speaking with the director of the museum, and I said that I thought we had so much untapped potential with the Crossroads of the American Revolution National Heritage Area that we have here. And he actually agreed and said that if we really leverage the history assets that we have here, the revolutionary history in particular, that Virginia would have something to worry about. So that's what I'm working on now, is really getting people to understand that we do have this really rich history that's competitive with what you would expect to see in places like Virginia. And this excursion gives folks a little bit of a taste of that. One of the excursions, the one that touches on the history assets that you have here in Elizabeth.
And I think that's the biggest thing too that I've been hearing from some of the guests, is that you're doing what in Elizabeth, or where am I going to go in Elizabeth, and just with the different packages that Jennifer's put together, it's been quite amazing.
So speaking of the package that the captain what is the package, Jennifer?
So we actually have 4 excursions that were approved by Royal Caribbean, but the sales have already started on 2 of them. And so 2 excursions are 3.5 hours long, and 2 other excursions are 6.5 hours long. So the 2 right now that we can talk about a little bit more in detail is we have one history tour, which is 6.5 hours, and it goes around to multiple historic sites in Elizabeth, and also includes a cultural dining lunch opportunity at one of 7 of our restaurants in town. And then the other excursion is 3.5 hours, and that is to Simon the Mills at Jersey Gardens. And that actually is one of New Jersey's most visited tourist attractions. So they have an opportunity to shop for a couple hours before getting back on their flights.
Vessels.
No, actually, this is going to be on their way home. So it'll help get them to, instead of just sitting in an airport, it'll actually get them to kill some time in town, learn, experience about New Jersey before they end at the airport.
Now,
Correct.
suppose anybody that travels by auto wants to do one of these. It's open to them, but could they leave their auto where they are, or how would that work?
Right, so that's something that we haven't yet experienced yet,
right.
Just because the majority or the target audience would be those folks that are flying out, because they can just continue on to the airport. However, we do have plenty of parking at Cape Liberty Cruise Port. We have a 915 car parking garage with an overflow space of about 415 cars. So it is actually a good opportunity for guests to leave their vehicles there, go and travel out into Elizabeth, and then maybe they might live back where I'm from, in Long Island, then they might just continue back the opposite way.
Yep. And
Well, Jake doesn't want to see him go back to Long Island. Jake wants to see him stay
At
in
least
New
then
Jersey.
they'll plan their next trip back to New Jersey.
we actually have a tour operator who is EMI Global. They are the company, the third party that's facilitating the excursions, and they are very accommodating. So once that need arises, it's just a matter of rerouting the bus tour, the bus route at the end.
We're going to run a couple of commercials and come back and talk about this a little more. Please stay with us after these messages, talking about more on tourism in the City of Elizabeth and the state of New Jersey with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines.
We're an American original, dependable, historic, nuanced, with all the comforts of home, even when you're just visiting. So we're celebrating for all that we've left untouched and all that we've changed. A place where the past meets the future. So consider this your invitation.
We've been celebrating here in Elizabeth for 350 years, and we're just getting started. Welcome back to our city, where we're talking about tourism in the City of Elizabeth and the state of New Jersey. And Jake, I want to start the second half with you again. The tourism in Elizabeth, as we're being creative on these excursions, do you see a rise in tourism throughout the state as a whole, and dollars that can be used for tourism?
Yeah, we actually have had 7 straight years of growth in tourism in the state, going back to just after the recession. And in bad economic times, tourism is the first industry and it gets hit the hardest. So across the board in every state, tourism suffered. But following the recession, like I said, 7 straight years of growth. The one issue that we had in New Jersey that we had to contend with that a lot of other states didn't was, unfortunately, when Superstorm Sandy hit, just as a lot of these other states were really beginning to rebuild their tourism economies. So we've had this double whammy where we've had to kind of wait a little bit longer for our tourism economy to come back. But in spite of that, tourism did grow every year, even in the year of Sandy and the years following Sandy. So it just really speaks to the strength of the industry throughout the state and to the diversity that we've created with organizations like EDMO and other tourism bureaus throughout the state that gives folks something to do other than just visit the shore like we were talking about earlier. But New Jersey is the nation's 12th largest tourism economy. It's a $44.1 billion economy in the state. Employs over 500,000 people. So very strong and very good growth and a lot of opportunity. And a lot of it is due to the diversification of products that we have thanks to our tourism bureaus. And Elizabeth DMO is one of the really great examples in the state of a bureau that has found a mechanism to fund itself. That's one challenge that New Jersey has had. Because we had tourism happen to us organically for so long with our 130 miles of beaches, we didn't have to compete as aggressively for the tourism business as some other destinations have. And in the meantime, a lot of other states have put in place mechanisms to generate revenue to fund tourism bureaus. And so we don't have very many of those throughout the state, but Elizabeth is one, and they've done a really great job in identifying partners that they can work with to help generate revenue to do what it is that they do.
And Jennifer, did you pay Jake for those comments?
No, I didn't, I swear.
I thought there was a gratuity there in the beginning, but
No.
you did a really nice job.
Thank you.
So the tours, they begin at the cruise ship?
So
or
they
begin
do.
at the hotels? With
No, actually, well, prior to, some of our hotels do have packages of stay the night before, where you can actually cruise, stay and cruise. So we'll actually have from some of our hotels, you can stay the night before, a couple days, and then they'll put you on a shuttle directly to the cruise port. We're hoping to grow so a lot of other hotels can also benefit from that, but it's based on the branding, and that's what we're starting right now to build through the excursions. So we're looking that the hotels can either book before or after to extend their trip, but by giving them something more to do in town.
And Tom, as far as executing the excursions from your point, how does that work? You get them off the ship and you're done with them, or you
Yeah, so-
steer them in the right direction?
So on an operational day, we call it a turnaround day, where we're getting 4,800 passengers off the ship, and then another 4,800 passengers on the ship. It's a fine ballet, I guess you can say, or a little bit of a bumpy ballet, where we're trying to get everybody off the vessel, processed through Customs and Border Protection, and get them on their way where they need to go in an easy, intuitive fashion. So, like I mentioned, most folks are driving. We just parked 700 cars last weekend on this size vessel. So there's a lot of folks that are leaving via car, or they're getting picked up by aunt, uncle, mom, dad, or whoever.
I did that once, by the way, and I did not have a problem.
You picked somebody up?
Pulled in, picked them up, left.
Did they give you a tip or?
No, it was my mother-in-law, so yeah, it was optional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and then we have this opportunity where we offer transfers directly to the airports with LaGuardia, JFK, and Newark, and then we have a drop-off in New York City. But we've noticed that the transfer volume has been kind of going down a little bit, and then this is kind of to hope to boost that back up, where people can then, add this in as an added value into their transfer opportunity to get to the airports.
4,800 off in the same day, 4,800 out, and a couple hours later, right? Basically.
Well, back to back, pretty much. So it's we have people that start arriving as early as 8:30. Don't do that. By the way,
Don't do that.
Don't do that yet. Follow your cruise ticket and your arrival
So
time.
the crew this is nothing to do with tourism, but the crew that works a ship for a week or whatever the sailing time is, do they come off or they stay on for another cruise?
They're on the crew contracts can range anywhere from 3 months all the way to 9 months, so that they'll be on that same vessel, sailing in that's on that itinerary with that vessel for that amount of time. So this is also another jump that we haven't really gotten into yet, but a lot of our crew are interested in shopping. A lot of our crew are coming from out of country, so they want to be able to bring some goods and things back home. Get those suitcases full of goods and bring them back home as well. So there is an opportunity there for our crew that visit each and every week.
So Jennifer, the preparation that went to these excursions,
Oh my
meetings,
goodness. Yes. So I have to say that we were successfully, since our initial discussion, I want to say last year, in less than a year, we have actually gone full force with implementation. The first excursions already launched this past October, but it would not have been possible without the local support of our partners that helped us and were so cooperative and willing. And that's everyone from the police department with the bus routes, to the restaurants putting together group menus, to the historic sites, categorizing and making special tours just for Royal Caribbean. Everyone has just been instrumental in being able to help us. And so with that being said, we put together practically like a holy Bible of a tour guide training manual, where EMI Global delivered us a handful or a little bit more in terms of number of tour guides, and they became students in Elizabeth for 2 weeks, where literally we train them on historic sites, bus routes, timings, pickups, drop-offs. Every little detail that goes into the excursion facilitation came together, and one person who was truly outstanding throughout the entire process of that was our city historian, Mr. Charles Shallcross, because he really helped us on the bus route be able to tell the story of, when the bus is passing at this location, don't forget to tell the Minuteman statue story of one of our Revolutionary battles. Or don't forget to tell about the Singer sewing machine factory, where that was one of the largest sewing machine operations in the country at one point. So all these little details that made Elizabeth so unique, he was able to bring that to life to us, and we trained our tour guides. So it's all inclusive in our tour guide training manual, but again, without the support of our local partners.
So have you been on these excursions?
So we have been from cruise point, picking up on the buses, through the entire process, not once, not twice, multiple times, and it's kind of to get all the kinks out of the system and make sure that we're traveling correctly.
So Jake, things like this from a state perspective, I'd love to ask Jennifer, but I got to ask you first. What's the impact on a locality or hotels? How do you see that impacting from a state perspective tourism on this issue?
I think it's going to be huge for us, and every year the state does an economic impact study to measure how tourism is performing. So I'll be very anxious to see how this has boosted our numbers here in Union County for next year, and as we move forward with the tour. Union County, back when I was at Visit South Jersey, I have to say, we had done a lot of work to kind of tear down the destination and rebuild it, and so it was the year when we were waiting around with bated breath to see if our 4 counties had any kind of significant growth to show for everything that we had done. And our 4 counties ended up being 4 of the top 5 that year. The one county that messed us up was Union County, third highest rate of growth in the state, and that was the year that the Elizabeth DMO came on board. So, it does register for sure when things like this happen. You can see it in the numbers, and it's, to the tune of millions, if not tens of millions of dollars. And so, what something like this does, and the reason why it's most exciting for me at the state level, is that it lets people know that they are, in fact, in New Jersey. They're coming off of a cruise ship. They're flying right back out to wherever they're from. A lot of these folks are, and they're seeing the New York skyline. And it's not abundantly clear necessarily that you're in New Jersey. So this slows them down, gets them to understand where they are, teaches them a little bit about it, and kind of whets their appetite for more, and hopefully gets them interested in a return trip to the state to come back and see more of what we have to offer. So that's really the point of something like this.
So Jennifer, our goal would be get more people to stay in more of the hotels, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal. But again, as the brand is being built and the packages are being sold, it all will start to travel. And as the years go on, we're looking for this to be a long-term partnership growth for Royal Caribbean as well as the state of New Jersey tourism.
So Tom, Cape Liberty has become a prime destination for the traveling public. Can you discuss the places where visitors can travel to leaving from this port? Where do you go?
Yeah, so there's basically four main itineraries. There's an Eastern Caribbean, a Western Caribbean, Bermuda, and then the Northeast, like New England and Canada. And there's those are seasonal, different times of the year. Bermuda is a summer months port, obviously, and the Eastern Caribbean, we kind of bounce back and forth between Bermuda and Eastern Caribbean during our summer months, and then during the winter months we kind of expand, have a little bit longer cruises, 10 and 12-day cruises that are going to Eastern and Western Caribbean as well, and then just in that small little gap of the fall time, we're heading up to New England for the fall foliage. What we have done now is just being able to see the area. Me being here locally as a representative of Royal Caribbean, I've kind of gotten into the ear a little bit with our deployment teams to try to, hey, Canada's pretty nice in the summertime too, so maybe we might want to start sending some more.
So do you see growth at Cape Liberty?
We do, actually. Just in passenger volume, number one, meaning more passengers are getting on board the ship year over year so far. Last year, when I first came in, we had about a little over 500,000 passengers throughput. So that's people getting on and getting off as well. And we had this year we are on track or on target, let's say, to be a little bit over 550,000 passengers. And then next year we've added another vessel during the summer, 19 calls with the Adventure of the Seas, sailing to Bermuda and Canada and the Caribbean as well during the summer months, and that's going to bring our total call volume up a little bit over 670,000 passengers for the year.
And the more they do, the more you two look
Absolutely.
tap into that market.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank the three of you for taking the time to join me on the show this evening, and wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a healthy and happy holiday season. I hope things go well for you, and thanks for all of your efforts.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I want to thank Mr. Jake Buganski, the Tourism Director for the State of New Jersey, Captain Thomas Hinderhofer, who is the Director of Northeast Port Operations for Royal Cruise Lines, and also Miss Jennifer Costa, the Director of the Elizabeth Destination Marketing Organization. We'll see you next week on another edition of Our City, when I believe we're going to have the kids from the city of Elizabeth celebrating Christmas.
Sometimes you learn by helping others learn. Kane University.